Today we're going to be doing lesson 19, which is on page 4 in your note packet. So we're going to start with writing some solutions to the inequality. Y is less than or equal to 9.2. So go through number 1 with your group and then check your work with the video. So any number less than 9.2 and 9.2 itself will be included because we have the less than or equal to. So we can include 9.2 in our solution set as well. We're going to skip this one for now, but it's similar to what we would do with an equation where we'd need to distribute 7 and then solve, but we will talk about that more in our next video or our next lesson. So for now, we're going to look at 19.2, and we have a teacher is choosing between 2 options for a class field trip to an orchard. At Orchard A, admission costs $9 per person and 3 chaperones are required. At Orchard B, the cost is $10 per person, but only 1 chaperone is required. At each orchard, the same price applies to both chaperones and students. So which orchard would be cheaper to visit if the class has 8 students? So if we're looking here at Orchard A, you would have $9 per person, so 9 times 8, plus 3 times 8. So 9 students, 3 chaperones. So we would have 9 times 8 gives us 72, and 3 times 8 is 24, giving us a total of $96. At Orchard B, we would have $10 per person, but only 1 chaperone is required. So that's only 9 people total. So 9 times $10 is $90. So for 8 students, B would be the better option because it is cheaper. For 12 students at Orchard A, that would be plus the 3 chaperones, which would be a total of 15 people, and that is $9 per person. So we would have 15 times 9, which gives us a price of $135. Then at Orchard B, we only need 1 chaperone, so that would be 13 people times $10, which is $130. So B is still cheaper. With 30 students for Orchard A, we need 3 chaperones, so that is 33 people times $9 per person, so that's $297. And at Orchard B, we only need 1 chaperone, so that's 31, but it's $10 a person, so that comes out to $310, so A is cheaper. So that means somewhere between 12 students and 30 students, they would be the same, because at one point, B is cheaper, and then eventually A becomes cheaper. So if we look at 2, it says to help her compare the cost of her 2 options, the teacher first writes the equation 9 times n plus 3 equals 10 times n plus 1. Then she writes the inequality 9 times n plus 3 is less than 10 times n plus 1. What does n represent in each statement? N would be the number of students attending. In this situation, what does the equation mean? So the 9 times n plus 3, this is the cost for A, and 10 times n plus 1 is your cost for B. So having the equation like that would show, we could say this equation, and you guys can write this in your own words too. This equation would show when the cost is equal for both orchards. Okay, again, you guys can write that in your own words. And then our inequality here, this, because 9 times n plus 3 is representing the cost of A and 10 times n plus 1 is cost of B, this inequality here would be when orchard A is less than orchard B, when it's cheaper to go to orchard A. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So as we said here, this first part is the cost to go to orchard A, and this is the cost to go to orchard B. So looking at our inequality sign, this would be when the cost to go to orchard A is cheaper than orchard B. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and graph this solution. So what I want you guys to do, as we saw on the first page, for 12 students, B was cheaper, and for 30, A was cheaper. So that means somewhere in between 12 and 30, A is equal to B. And then at some point, A becomes cheaper. So what I want you guys to do is find that value. So you're just going to be plugging different values into N, or just doing what we did on the last page. But I want you guys to find the value that makes them equal, and then when A becomes cheaper. So check with your groups, go ahead and pause the video and try to find that number. So what we end up getting is A equals B when N, the number of students, is 17. When N is greater than 17, that's when orchard A becomes cheaper. Okay, so at 17 students, cost is the same. Greater than that, A is cheaper. So when we go to graph this, if we are using less than or greater than signs, we're going to use an open circle on our graph. This is probably a review for you guys. If we have less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, that is a closed circle, and it will be filled in, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So right now, I want you guys to go ahead and number your number line. Start at 4 and go all the way up. Okay. So because we have N is greater than 17, that is greater, so we're going to use an open circle. So at 17 on my number line, I'm just going to do an open circle. And then because N is greater than 17, we're going to shade the numbers bigger than 17. So you can either do a line above the number line, or you can just do like a squiggly line, something so that I can see the direction that you're shading. Okay, make sure you guys write this down when we use open and closed circles. I will ask you about this, okay? So make sure you have that in your notes. This part, 19.3, we're going to skip that, so go ahead and go to the next page. Here, this is a continuation of 19.3 at the top, so we're going to skip that too. We are going to start, down here at 19.4. So first, I want you guys to solve this equation. Okay, this part is review. So try this on your own and then play the video to check your work and your answer. So we're going to start by multiplying by 5 because we have division by 5 on the left. Okay, so we're going to rewrite this problem now. We can't forget about this negative sign right here. Negative 4 times x plus 3 equals, on this side we need to make sure we're distributing. So we have 20x minus 60. Now we can distribute on the left as well. So negative 4x minus 12. And then we still have 20x minus 60. At this point, you can move whatever terms you want to either side. So I'm going to add 4x on both sides. and then we have 24x minus 60. Then I'm going to add 60 on both sides. So now we have 48 equals 24x, and we can divide by 24 to get x equals 2. So that is the value that makes those two expressions equal, is 2. So now what we're going to do for the next few parts is try some different values. So we're going to choose a couple of values less than 2 for x, okay? So let's say let's pick an easy one. We'll do 0. So if x equals 0, we're going to plug that in for x here and here and see, does this expression on the left side, is that less than or equal to the expression on the right? Okay, so we have negative 4 times 0 plus 3 over 5. That 0 goes away because it's 0, right? So we get negative 12 over 5. And that gives us negative 2.4. Okay? So we're going to compare that to the other side. So we have 4 times 0 minus 12. The 4 times 0 doesn't do anything. So we get negative 12. So we're trying to see, is that true? Is negative 2.4 less than negative 12? No, it is not. Okay? So now we're going to look at B, and we're going to choose a couple values greater than 2. So I don't know, let's try x equals 4, I guess. So if x equals 4, we have on the left negative 4 times 4 plus 3 over 5. Okay, so now we would have 4 plus 3 is 7. So we have negative 4 times 7 over 5. That gives us negative 5.6. Now we can try that value of 4 in the right-hand side as well. So we have 4 times 4, minus 12. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 minus 12 is 4. So on the left-hand side, we had negative 5.6. On the right, we got 4. So is that less than or equal? Is negative 5.6 less than or equal to 4? Yes, so that part worked. And then is 2 a solution? When you plug it in, you do get left side equals right side because we have less than or equal to. So because we have the or equal to part, from when we solved our equation up here, we already know that that's the value that makes them equal. But just to be sure, if you want to plug it in, you can check in your inequality. So because the values less did not work, but greater did, right? We got that was true. So that means that our inequality is x is greater than or equal to 2. Okay, we're going to go over in our next lesson more explicitly how to solve these. But for right now, you can just find what value makes them equal and then test above, below what is true. So because x is greater than or equal to 2, we are going to do now a closed circle because it's that or equal to part. And we have greater again, so we're going to go to the numbers that are greater than 2. Okay? Again, like I said, we're going to go over how to solve these more explicitly in our next lesson. But for now, that is all you need to know there. So that's all we're going to do for this lesson. Go ahead and work on your cool down. If you have any questions from today, write them in your note packet, and then we can go over them next time I see you guys. See you soon.